Right. I was going to do a thing where I took this thing. This is that boys choir vocal part, and it fits with this harmony we wrote because I made it do that. And then I'm going to I'm going to paste it in the trumpet line actually, because I want to see if this sounds good in the trumpet. Ooh. So, okay, you see what I've done. Now we're starting to get into a little bit of the arrangement. I used to say, I think I was talking with earlier in the stream to not Kevin, that I kind of do these phases like composition where I just get ideas down, get chords, stuff like that, and then I move into like the arrangement where I figure out what instruments are playing those. Can I move those chords around into other instrumentation like I did here where I have the horns playing it, and now I have the choir singing it. I can play with stuff like that. Now I'm like trying like, okay, I've got a melody that I wrote for the boys choir line. So now I can make that callback because I've already been using trumpet for a melody back here. So now I can do the same melody in the trumpet line. Sometimes, okay, most of the time you're jealous of the seeming easy you do these things with, Liz, but you understand there's a lot of hard work and experience behind it. Yes. Honestly, I've been struggling with this song a bit, and now it's finally starting to click. A lot of it is, it takes so much practice because so much of this I've masked out and struggled with for years, even with my writing, and you start to develop an instinct for it. Like when I'm listening to like the choir part, I'm also like, my brain is going, oh crap, like I'm keeping things in mind, like I've used the trumpet once. I need to bring it back again or it's going to sound weird to have it there just once. So what other lines can I put there? I'm keeping in mind that the trumpet and this choir have similar ranges. So that's in my brain, like, oh, if I use a melody here, I can use it in another place. And keeping in mind the emotional associations. A boys' choir has a very somber and attached, like it's that familial attachment, right? That's so important. So when I'm thinking about soldiers going off to war, we've got this idea of leaving family behind or family following. Some of the soldiers were really young. These are the ghosts of these boys who are killed. Things like that are going through my mind as what attachments do we have to this sound. Trumpets, right? They can have two different interesting tones. They have a very triumphant, fanfare thing, but there's also that other sort of taps, militaristic feel to it. So you can play around with that. So it's like when I put it, so when I move a melody around, I'm thinking about all these things, and so you start to generate, like as I'm composing, my brain is cataloging the different parts, the potential that I can have with them, the ranges, and these potential ideas and stuff. Yeah, sorry. It did get dark. But you know what I mean? Like, so you have these things are all floating around. Things like I've been extending like this the cadence that we have underneath. Now, militaristic cadences are interesting. I haven't touched the percussion. I just keep copying and pasting more and more and more because you have this constant, and that's that marching into battle, that ever moving forward. So that's a feel I can play with. If I want to break that, now we've got a different thing. Maybe when we get to like a battle scene, if we want to have a battle scene, I'll probably break the percussion, thus signifying that breaking of the regiments, These are all these different textures that in my brain and on the paper I'm playing with now. So now that I've started to get the parts and I'm starting to get a feel for them, and that's what I was having a problem with, now that I've got a little bit of a feel for them, this is where it gets really exciting for me, because now I can really just like, there's more options, if that makes sense. And it's a matter of, how do I want this song to feel? How do I want it to play out? What journey and story do I want to bring the listener on? And now, even as I'm thinking about this, right, like, I always think about full cam time. One thing I really, really think about, and this is going to feel very black and white, but you can sort of boil it down to playing into expectations or playing against expectations. This can happen in so many different ways, right? If I have like my where's the next chord? That's the expectation. Another expectation, kind of breaking it. Ooh. Breaking, so again, playing into expectation, breaking expectation. Things like that, Really breaking expectation. Like, okay, so you can do this with chords. Marching, we have a very regimented march here. Expectation, that keeps going forever until you get a coda to stop it, which is, but what else can we do? Can we have it start missing notes, play against the expectations there? So if we play with the expectations, we keep this kind of forward motion. We keep everybody feeling like things are constantly moving forward. That can build interesting tension. Okay, we play against expectations. Maybe the snare starts missing notes. Maybe the bass drum starts getting off. Okay, what's happening? Now we're starting to lose that feel. That can give it a very personal vibe. Other things we can play against, it just straight up drops out. Another interesting idea to play against, does it speed up? Okay? Maybe it slowly speeds up and we start feeling this like rushing feeling, like, oh my God, we're getting, we're rushing forward. Why are we rushing? What's going on? Why are, like you can almost start to make it feel like we're running, and it'll start to get your heart beating faster. Again, these are all the different ways that we can play. And this is where when I start thinking about composition, this is where I start to feel it gets really fun, because it's not just about the notes and the melodies and the rhythms. Like, it's about that interplay with that dialogue and interplay with your listener, and how I can suggest story bits to them, or I can suggest ideas using this idea of, either confirming or breaking expectation. That makes sense? Kind of a long thing, but that's where my brain is. So, when I'm composing, I'm cataloging these ideas in sort of what do I have to work with in my sort of musical palette, and what can I do with it that moves it around. And a lot of this I figure out honestly by going, like, here, I'll show you something like, what would this melody sound like in a bagpipe, right? Like, well, I don't know. Let's find out. Let's put it in a bagpipe. Let's mute the choir and see what it sounds like in a bagpipe, because I don't know. Okay. So you guys have heard the melody in a boys choir. This is gonna be education time. Boys choir. You've heard it in a trumpet, and now because I just happen to have it up, I put it in a bagpipe. What emotions? What vision? What does that sound like to you? I want you to actually post in chat. Tell me your things. What does that sound like? What feels does that give you? I'll wait. Hello, Domo Man. Sits up straight. Pay attention, class. I'm going to start calling on people. But yes, tell me, what feels did that give you? I'll play it one more time. Okay, so the melody and bagpipe. Don't make me start calling on people. I'll tell you what my impression of it was after, but I want like Fire Raven. I'm calling on you now. Meadows, solitude. Ooh, good. Feel like you're waking up in a mountain trying to get to a boss. Good, good. Yeah. I get that a longing, right? Like that solitude. Meadows, great, you know, like I get that sort of distance. Yeah. So now back in my brain, I'm going two things, right? That's a cool feeling. Maybe that's a cool way to end this piece. You know, maybe I end it with a solitude. Maybe I end it with a solitude where everything else, like, the percussion breaks out. Maybe the percussion gets really, really distant. Dark Winter Dreams. Trumpet gives you a feeling of possible triumph. Choir, a bit of despair. Pipes, hope. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I like it. Okay, so now you're starting to feel what to do. What do you do with that, right? So now it's like, okay, if you want, you know, choir gives you despair. Like let's just take this. So none of these are right or wrong, right? Like, you know, again, they kind of have, but they're very effective, and you can use them in those. Yeah, a hope is a good word. So maybe, right, we have this idea where the choir is kind of despair, and then all of a sudden we go into the trumpet, and it starts giving us that feeling of hope, like maybe we can come out of this, or this feeling of triumph, right? Maybe we go, and then maybe the battle gets more distant, you know, or the drums and stuff gets more distant to distance ourselves from this military idea, because drums are very, and the fife are very militaristic. Or maybe we have the fife come back, but with this bagpipe over it to give us like hope, like, hey, we are going to make it home. Okay? So now you can start to see how you can play with these. You have these emotional things. The eagles are coming, right? You have these emotional considerations that are tied directly to, I mean, even, you know, musical passages, or like even like more specifically, like these little blocks of notes. So now you can tell a story by copying and pasting and arranging these blocks on, you know, in a very practical sense. I say like, okay, what feeling do I want right now? What do I want that to lead into? What, you know, so that's a very, very practical way. And I'm doing this too. Like, I might just be not as explicit as this, but these are the feelings like, oh, that's interesting. So one thing I almost always do when I'm playing around and starting to write a piece is I'll cue up some interesting instruments that I may not be thinking of and just try, you know, what does it sound like in a clarinet? Let's figure that out. Oops. Do I like it? It's okay. To me, clarinet is a very interesting, pure, woody instrument. I would have to change the orchestration around it, but it gives me, I don't know, not as strong of feels, to be honest. You in this context. Um, yeah, you like it, but it's a little loud. Yeah, yeah, I'd have to obviously mix it in and get the volumes and dynamics right. Um, you know, but other things I'm thinking of. Um, if I introduce pipes in, that's anytime I introduce a brand new instrument into the piece, I think about where might else I want to use it. Because not that a one-off instrument is bad, but it's, how do I say it? If you use something once, like the most concrete example is if I have a cymbal crash come in once and then you never hear cymbals again, it makes that stand out way more, right? Um, so if you're going to bring in, if I use pipes, the big pipes for one passage, it's going to be a very you're going to be focused on it just because you haven't heard that instrument again, and your ear is going to be kind of primed for maybe it'll come back. So, right, if I'm using fife, right, and then I stop this fife, I've used it repeatedly for repeated phrases. If that fife doesn't come back, your brain is going to go, what happened to that? And maybe that's good. Maybe the fife represented our regiment that just died. Maybe we don't want it to come back. Maybe we want the fife to come back, but in a minor key. What does that say? So these are other things to play around with. And as I'm working in, like I wanted this trumpet to come back because I want that feel. And I want your brain to go, yeah, it's still there. Don't worry. Yeah. That makes sense?